This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
Okay, all right. It is Thanksgiving Day. I hope you guys are all enjoying football and food. It's a great combination. It's one of the best underrated holidays. What's more American than Thanksgiving? What, football, food? Like this is great. This is great. Even if you got your whole problem with the original Thanksgiving story, you know what I mean? Like the food part is universal, right? The football part also goes far. In order to kind of really have that Thanksgiving feel to the channel, I'm bringing in the OG G Bush onto the channel.
We back. We are back. Yes. The long-awaited arrival of G Bush back in the building. No, you see, I told you I was coming back. We ready to go. It's Thanksgiving. Yeah, absolutely. We come out for the special stuff.
Absolutely. And the main reason I was like, you know what, this is a great week to bring G Bush on, because, you know, the internet's losing their mind over the last couple of weeks. Honestly, it's been the whole season that the internet has been a little unhinged. And when that happens, people tend to, they connect to certain people, and then they also like project things out, right? So I'm sure that there have been plenty of people who have come to you be like, oh my God, Quincy thinks this, that, and the third, and this, that, and then there's plenty of people come to me be like, oh, G Bush thinks this, that, and the third. I want to do what Thanksgiving is meant for. Let's not live off rumors. Let's actually have a conversation face to face.
That's what we always,
as close to face as we could be on the internet.
That's
right?
What we always do, man. Like, this is so crazy. But it'd be funny because I don't think they be knowing. I mean, like it's kind of like, you know, people be like, hey man, you see what I ain't seen G Bush or I ain't seen Quincy. What's going on? What y'all doing? I'm like, listen, you do know I didn't know this man for how many years? I didn't know. Yeah.
The internet is awful at their parasocial relationship evaluation. Like awful at it. Every time somebody drops in a comment, they're like, they got this theory about what's going on with me and somebody been on the chat. I'm like, the schedules just ain't lined up. Like, I still talk to these people. Like, but people be like, oh yeah, this thing really set him off and he got mad. It's like, all right, man. But
I have his. We have each other's numbers. We'll text it and be like, we don't even be talking about. And by the way, half the time when we start talking, we get on here, we spend half our time beforehand talking about other stuff. We don't even talk about no football. It'd be kind of wild. But just so you know, we in the building and we ready to go, man.
All right, man. So one of the reasons why I talked to you about, because like it feels like perception-wise, we occupy two different corners of this whole Shedeur conversation when it comes to Browns fans, right? Like, I feel like people associate Mew more with the positive side of it. I think it's unfair that I've been associated with the negative angle of it, but it is what it is, right? Like, there's certainly a lot of people who are big Shedeur fans that, you know, don't think that I am covering him fairly, which is what it is, right? But I want us to actually have a conversation so both of us could talk about like what we think about Shedeur and some of the stuff that surrounds Shedeur, right? Let's first start with the player himself, because the football is the most important thing here, right? His pro potential. We actually had a conversation before we got on about this, about his pro potential and about like where people think I stand on it. G Bush, I'm interested to hear somebody who, you know, you were certainly more of a supporter of Shedeur even before the Browns drafted him. What do you think his potential is as a pro? Like, when you watch him in college, when you watch him so far in the league, who do you think he can be in the league, or what do you think he could be in the league?
Well, so when he was coming out, there's a couple of traits that I always loved about Shedeur Sanders. And full disclosure, when they had the second pick, I said I would take him with the second pick. Now, a lot of people said they didn't like him that much. I think Mel Kiper liked him a lot. Other people say, you know, at the bottom, they're like, okay, at worst, this is third round, right? So when he kind of fell, I think it put everybody into this perspective where I think people started elevating or lowering them more aggressively than they needed to. For me, I always liked the fact that he was very accurate in college. I also liked the fact that he had a lot of tape. He played at 2 different places, and he made the jump from HBCU. I always liked that. I thought he doesn't have, what would I say, a rocket arm, but he has a good arm. And the thing that I like the most, and here's, I think, too, where people get it kind of, where you can go off stray and people disagree about. When you like intangibles, see, intangibles can be used as good or bad, right? One of the things that people liked about Baker was they said they like his intangibles. And I agree with that. Like, he's fiery. I like his competitive nature. I think he can galvanize people. I think people rally around him. But sometimes it's like some people may not value those things as much in an evaluation. For me, I always like the fact that Shedeur played with a certain bravado. I like the fact that he has lived in that spotlight and been in a place where, people are looking at him and he expects a certain level of production. So for me, I always like those things about him. Sometimes when you are the backup quarterback, those things are a hindrance to some people. Like, if you're the backup quarterback, it's like, hey man, we just want you to just chill and get on the football field first. And then, like, if you're going to do the rest of that stuff, we want you to do that. We want you to get that when you get it. Like, but right now you got to work to get towards it. I think too, what the thing that I've been most vocal about is, listen, I just want the opportunity to see it, because the thing that we all agree is this: if you got these picks, I ain't got no problem with you thinking of and making an evaluation and trying to figure it out and saying, oh, okay, we might need to look at a quarterback in 26. But my thing was, if you're going to look at the quarterback in 26, I want to evaluate 25. So I'm pushing for the evaluation to see it. Now that he's played a couple of games, I think we talked about a little bit, and we'll get to it. I think that this week is going to present a challenge to him that I'm excited to see, because I saw progression from Ravens to Raiders. Now I want to see what he does with Robert Saleh and the 49ers. But long story short, I think he has potential to be a franchise quarterback. The thing is, how quickly is he able to show enough of those traits so that the Browns organization says, okay, we see what we need to see and build around him. I think that's the big question, because it's not just a week-to-week thing. He needs to show enough from a perspective of the intangibles, from the throwing to, being a franchise quarterback, that the Browns say that's the guy. And sometimes that takes more for your organization to come to that conclusion than regular people like me and you that are just breaking it down.
Yeah, and I think it's also, you got to consider where the organization started at in this conversation, right? And that's been something that I've been having to constantly work with, which is like, hey, your evaluation of this player might have been here, but their evaluation of this player was not there, right? So if you're Shedeur, you got to think about it like, okay, they thought enough of me to trade up and get me in the 5th round, but they didn't think enough of me for me to be the first quarterback that they took, right? So if you're Shedeur and you want to stop them from drafting a quarterback, you have to play well enough to where you can raise your evaluation behind the scenes as well, which is going to be more important, right? Because if he's not doing the right stuff behind the scenes, then it's not even going to matter what the result is. They're going to be like, nah, we don't trust this going forward, because there's going to be too much going against him. So he has to do everything that he can to kind of make the Browns go, we were wrong about Shedeur, basically, right? Like, that's what he has to kind of do, is prove them wrong, but also encourage them to continue forward with him, which is a complicated place to be at, right? And that's why it's hard to be a 5th round pick. It's hard to be a 5th round pick and get that opportunity, right? Like, that's why it is. You touched on it. I think a lot has been talked about of what Shedeur could be, and not enough is talked about how long it could take Shedeur to get to that place, and how much time the Browns are going to have to wait on it, right? Especially for somebody who we just established they did not think high enough of to take first or to take with the second pick. They didn't think high enough of him to take him in the second round. He wasn't the first quarterback that they wanted. He was the second quarterback that they wanted. They thought high enough of him to bring him onto the team and give him a chance. But how long do you think this journey could take for Shedeur? Because I look at his skill set And what he does well, right? He's kind of a traditional pocket passer who can thrive out of structure. He's somebody who has shown that ability, right? But he's not a, overwhelming raw talent, in my opinion, right? Like Josh Allen is an overwhelming raw talent. Lamar Jackson, to a point, you can make the argument to Cam Newton, even though Cam Newton was much more refined coming out of college, and people give him credit for.
He was he was a beast.
He was the greatest college player of all time,
right?
There's no doubt about it.
He was a monster.
I don't want to get too sidetracked here. The way Shedeur is going to have to win is going to be a lot more traditional in the NFL. And that's the most difficult way to win at quarterback. That's the highest learning curve for me, right? Like, you look at guys who come into the league, we always talk about, oh, this guy's pro ready. He ran an NFL offense. And then the guy comes into the league, and like a Bryce Young, right, who everybody thought was pro ready, comes into the league, and you find out it's going to take a while for any of the skills he had in college to start to translate, because he's not that kind of prospect that you expect to be great on day one, because he doesn't really have anything he can overwhelm you with or what he can live off of, right? But then a dude like Lamar Jackson gets all the time in the world to get the reps he needs because he's so good as an athlete, you could justify him being on the field all the time, right? The same thing was true with Cam Newton, his rookie year. Same thing true.
6'5", 250.
Same thing true with Josh Allen, right? Because his passing numbers, Josh Allen, like I think I did a side-by-side of like Dylan Gabriel's first 5 starts passing numbers and like Josh Allen's. And
his first few years,
terrible.
His first few years, he was not a passer of the football like that traditionally. That wasn't his thing. But you bring up a great point, Q, is you get to be really like a franchise superstar type quarterback, you usually have one trait that is off the charts. Josh Allen, his athleticism and his arm were just, and that size, like you just to be able to have that. So that's going to give you leeway. Lamar Jackson, his athleticism is probably once or twice in a generation. Michael Vick, guys like that. Cam Newton was a guy like that. So when you look at it, and you look at Shedeur Sanders, this isn't a knock to Shedeur Sanders, but you wouldn't say he's a generational athlete. I think sometimes he's a better athlete than people give him credit for, right? You wouldn't say, you would look at him throw the football and his arm strength wouldn't be Brett Favre, or that wouldn't be one of those guys you would say, well, his arm is he out of house?
He's not an overwhelming physical talent, right?
No.
Like he is somebody who is very skilled coming out of college. He is somebody who has demonstrated that. But it's like, it's funny when you look at the 2018 class, right? The 3 guys who were deemed the more pro ready. Josh Rosen,
Sam Darnold,
Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield. Those are the guys that people are like, oh, they play a more traditional style. They'll be ready sooner. Those are the guys, well, Josh Rosen never came to, but the other 2, they're just now getting to the point to where they're starting to live up to that potential.
Figuring it out.
Where Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson been in MVP conversation since 2020, 2021. So it's like, those are the guys who get to get along. Because like in the NFL, it's one thing to be really skilled. We've seen it. We could bring this down to pass rusher, right? Yeah, you could be really skilled, but you could also be Myles Garrett.
Yeah, right? It's levels. It's just levels.
When you are a better athlete than some of the guys you're on the field with, it's just going to make your life easier in the NFL. And I think we have traditionally told ourselves that those guys, the skilled guys, are the ones who are going to make that transition faster. But I think history has told us it's actually the opposite. Like the one guy who was really good early in his career in that era of quarterback in the 2000s where nobody was good their rookie year was Mike Vick. I don't think that's a surprise, right? Like
he was running past people like he was faster than everybody. Like he broke the video game. When you say, I think when you go back to the question that you asked, right? You said, what does he have to win like? So these are the quarterbacks that I would assume he would have to. So Joe Burrow, right? Joe Burrow is a decent athlete. Joe Burrow does a good job of eluding and doing some things, but Joe Burrow's game is what? Cerebral, figuring it out, understanding where the football gonna go. Guys like Drew Brees,
unbelievable poise, unbelievable accuracy,
just accuracy, right?
Yeah,
and it's just not. I'm just saying this is blasphemous. I'm not saying he's these people. I don't want y'all to get it twisted. G. Bush and went on here and I said he was.
But
Peyton
you're saying
Manning.
if he went, you're saying if for Shedeur to be successful in the NFL, his game has to resemble.
Yes, that's the resemblance. Like the way that Peyton Manning understood what you was doing, right? The way that Joe Burrow moves, the way that Drew Brees understands, and he's not going to run past you and do all those things, but the accuracy is there. The tempo is there. The creativity is there. Patrick Mahomes is a guy who Patrick Mahomes is not. I wouldn't say the greatest athlete. But what Patrick Mahomes does is he's able to make plays, and when he makes plays, he makes you pay for it. And remember when Patrick Mahomes came out, they was like, you can't blitz Patrick Mahomes. You blitz him, he's going to hurt you. You're going to find an open dude every single time. And those are the things that Shedeur Sanders has to do in order to get to that level. And I think the one trait he has, his best trait, is his accuracy. I do think he's very accurate, and I do think he has nice touch. To get to the platform where he wants to go is he's going to now have to digest the game in a way where he is one of those people where they say, listen, if you blitz Shedeur Sanders, or if you make if you make a mistake in the first quarter, he's going to log that away. He's going to make you pay for it in the fourth or the second half of the football game. So that's the way, to me, he's going to have to win. I don't think you'll ever hear somebody say, hey, Shedeur Sanders just out-physicaled and killed us today because he was better than everybody. That's not his game plan.
But that being the case, do you think that that's going to take a while to, like, for me, I'm like, that's from where he's at right now to where he needs to get to be that. I think there's a lot of growth there that's going to be necessary. I think it's going to take a little bit more time and patience than I think some folks are giving themselves room for. And it's like, there's a question of, hey, how much room do the Browns have when they're possibly going to be in a situation where they could take a quarterback at the top of the next draft class, right? And this looks like a draft class where, you got guys who people might want, right? Like,
let's keep it real. Let's say their names. We've been watching them.
Oh yeah, Mendoza, Moore, and Simpson.
Them is the two. When you come over, you pull up in a barbershop, we got Sean King. So I tell him, look, don't just take my word for it. You pull up here, he gonna say I like Mendoza, I like Simpson. Mendoza is gonna be something to watch with the Ohio State game. Everybody will be glued to it to see what it is. That's a pro defense. That's if he goes out and plays well against that team, Caleb Downs and Matt Patricia, who's going to give you a lot of pro looks. I'm telling you, there are going to be teams that are going to say, that's the first pick. That's the guy that we want. Ty Simpson, I think, has played very well. And there's Quincy. There's going to be a couple of quarterbacks that just sneak up there because people will go back, and you have hindsight is 2020. And in a class you have where there's not really maybe the top one and top two, we taking them 1 and 2. You're going to have some people, it's going to be a preference. Some people are going to say, I just thought you was in the wrong system. I just thought you had a terrible offensive coordinator. I see something, and they're going to take him high.
Well, Dante Moore is also the other one to watch there, right, out of Oregon. We don't know if he's going to come out. Everybody screams that he's not coming out this year, but he might be a top 5 pick. So it's like, how are you going to say no to that? Like, there's no way that you're going to say no to that. Like, what, you going to stay in Oregon to develop, do what? Become a top 5 pick next year?
No, that sometimes doesn't work out best for you, bro.
Yeah, and especially I know people are like NIL, but NIL can't compete with top 5 money in the NFL. No. So we'll see if he comes out, but if he does, he's also 20 right now, but he'll be 20 when he gets drafted, 21 in rookie camp. So he's going to be somebody who's interesting to watch here.
So what he has to do, what you have to do, Quincy, what you got to do is, so Shedeur has to overkill it. Let's just be clear. What Shedeur Sanders has to do is his progression has to be, okay, he played in the Ravens game. Okay. He comes back, shows promise, made a couple wild throws against the Raiders. Now we're going to come back and see what you do against the 49ers. And I've said this all along, I kept it 1,000. The fierce urgency is now. right? You behind the 8 ball because you didn't get the reps. And I think Shedeur even admitted, he said, listen, man, I can't complain about the reps I didn't get, but I feel like I'm catching on to what they're trying to do. I'm catching on and I'm getting it. And this is just my third opportunity to be throwing and doing some of these things. But the reality of the situation is this. You still have to perform to a level where you're not only competing to continue to keep, going out there being a starting quarterback. I would start him the rest of the season. That's just me. But my thought process is he has to show them something where they say, oh, we could build around that, or this is better than what I'm seeing in this class. This right here, this is because they got this right. They're on the whiteboard and they're looking at him in their building and they're comparing right now. It's Shedeur Sanders. We got tape on him in practice, and what we doing? And then on the right-hand side, it's Mendoza, it's Simpson, it's Moore, it's 4 or 5 other quarterbacks on that right side of the board. And they guessing based on where we at right now, what's the upside, and where we can go. So that's just the reality of football.
Yeah, and if you're Shedeur, I think it's important to keep in mind, hey, and I think he's been demonstrated a lot of resiliency. I know some people were upset at his confidence about his pre and post game interviews. I love shit like that because for me, it's okay, you've been through a lot. Look, whether we can argue about whether Shedeur should have got reps or not, the reality is he's been through stuff in his career he's never had to go through because his whole career he's had Prime as his coach, right? Mm-hmm. He always knew he had a path to start if he wasn't the starter, and this was much different, right? Nothing was guaranteed to him, nothing was going to be handed to him in this situation, and that's tough. He also had his dad going through some health complications during the season. Just there's a lot going on, right? And it's just tough that first year where you're out of all of these things you're used to being with, right? And for him to come out of that at this point of the season, get the opportunity to start and still have that trademark confidence is a showcase of resilience to me. And I think it's going to become important for him because I think if the Browns draft the quarterback at the top of the draft here, I don't necessarily think that means that's the end of Shedeur's story here. I think if Shedeur shows enough here, they might think to themselves, hey, we want to keep him around because we need somebody to start because we might not want to start the rookie right away. Or it could turn into a Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers situation, right? Where, he gets to go exactly where he wants. He gets to be treated how he wants to after getting a year in Cleveland because he plays himself into that role. It could be a situation like Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, where the guy they draft doesn't work out. And all of a sudden you there, right? I think it's important for everybody involved in this to keep in mind, hey, this kid's resilient. We don't have to freak out every time something bad happens. He's gonna get through it. He's mentally tough. And even if this doesn't go his way, right, and they do draft somebody, I think he's resilient enough to work through it. And if there's another opportunity that awaits him, maybe if he doesn't succeed on this first try, he succeeds on the next one. That's perfectly normal for a lot of people. Our first times popping off on this specific career for him wasn't our first attempts, right? It wasn't. So it's it's I understand it's you just got to keep swinging at it. And I think Shedeur's going to keep swinging at it. Now, let's kind of talk about the other stuff that surrounds Shedeur, because I think Shedeur is a prospect, Shedeur is a person. You go and ask Browns fans how they feel about him as a person. I don't think anybody has a negative thing to say about Shedeur as a person. He's done great things. By the way, shout out to the Cleveland Browns who are at Milkovich Middle School with David Njoku, Xavier, Malik Collins, and I believe Ken Carmen. Big shout out to Big Ken, man. Let's give it to Ken. Put some love to Big Ken out there, bro. Ken's a good one. Ken's a good one. He reached out to me early in my career.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Ken, man.
Big shout out to Ken. But yeah, man, Ken was down there at Milkovich Middle. That's my middle school alma mater, I guess you call it. But
you got alma maters from middle school? That's crazy. I got to figure out. Man, shout out to Lehman.
I guess you graduated from the school. You were alma mater. But they was giving out turkeys to the people, giving out dinners. Big shout out to that, man. Super. That's why I'm wearing my my maple jersey today, you know what I mean? I stole this from the athletic department like a long time ago.
Hey, you big now, bro. They supposed to be giving you free gear, bro.
Don't nobody
What you talking about? You big man, but you supposed to throw your weight around like you don't know. I'm Quincy Carrier.
I don't know if I'm that big where I can do that. Okay, so we're going to continue this conversation about Shedeur and really get into the media environment around Shedeur, G. Bush's thoughts on that, my thoughts on G. Bush's thoughts, and my thoughts in general on all of that. But before we get to that fun stuff, let me thank my sponsor for today, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. But let's talk about some of the other stuff with Shedeur, right? There is a ton of media attention that is associated with Shedeur because he is the son of Deion Sanders. Right? Like there's other reasons why people have gravitated towards Shedeur, right? Like Shiloh's not as big of a deal as Shedeur, right? But a huge part of this is Deion's son, and this is the most promising prospect that Deion has produced as an offspring. This is somebody who has had a college career. He also has, you know, his wristwatch celebration, the kind of confidence that he brings. Like he's the one that feels mentally the most like his father when it comes to like the extras that he brings to the game. And much like his father, people feel one way about it. You got your Rex Ryans of the world, you know what I mean, who out here just saying ridiculous stuff on a daily basis. And then you got Kendrick Perkins out here comparing the brother to Obama. So just...
and he stood on business too. He really, all right, man.
He really meant that. Like, whew. It reminds me at times, and look, the prospect is not similar. I don't think Shedeur as a prospect reminds me of this guy. But the environment around him reminds me at times of Tim Tebow. Where
I feel it's bigger than that.
You think it's bigger than Tim Tebow? I can't speak to that because I was a kid when Tim Tebow was happening. I was in high school.
Man,
so
I'm kind of old.
I don't know how big it was. You would speak to it better than me, but it feels like this is a Tim Tebow thing where like you're getting updates about, you know, there were like stories of like people getting updates in church about Tim Tebow and what he was doing on Sundays. Yeah. And like the same thing feels like it's happening with Shedeur Sanders. Do you think this hype, and when you have things happening, like everything he says being analyzed like in the most uncharitable way possible by a Rex Ryan on national TV. And then on the flip side of that, you got people like, okay, that's ridiculous. And then they go and they listen to Kendrick Perkins and he's talking about how the man is more powerful than Barack Obama. Do you think that kind of environment is something that for a prospect that we established, like might take some time to get to where he needs to? Is it going to kind of expense that time for him? Because that's my biggest concern, is that this is going to become such a big deal that NFL GMs and coaches, much like they said in the draft, are going to go, I ain't trying to do this for 2-3 years. And it looked like it's going to be 2-3 years that you're going to have to go through some of this, right?
It takes a special. So here's the thing. I believe, just date myself. I just turned 44. I know I look young, you know what I'm saying? I know I look young out here, man, you know what I'm saying?
Official unk status.
Yeah, I see that. I knew you was going to that, man. Listen, man.
You get a good plate at Thanksgiving. You get your own chef.
That's wild work.
Spot at the table now. You ain't at the head of the table yet, but you definitely in that first line at Thanksgiving. Man. Like you no longer in that second line.
Watch out. Yeah, G. Bush got to eat. So like
I see G. Bush in line. I'm like, it's not my turn to eat.
You third though. You third. I heard you had a blog. You was like you pushing them 30s, bro.
I'm under it, right?
Yeah, right.
Know what I mean?
Bro, listen, and you got a good job, so you might be able to cut some of the cousins. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Nah. Nobody, like, you know what I mean? Like, Uncle Bush got to get his stuff. You know what I mean?
Man.
Uncle G got to get his stuff, and then it's like, all right, the young fellas go up. That's me right there. I'm still a young fellas. Young adults.
Man, we call it something different on that, but you know what I'm saying? We know what we know what it is. But shout out to Shedeur. Man, look, bro, like what really happens though, I compare it to this. So when you Taylor Swift, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you Taylor Swift, now, first and foremost, shout out to Taylor Swift. You're not about to get on my algorithm and say G-Bus said nothing about that lady bad. Taylor Swift, one of the greatest to ever do it. Now, look, when you Taylor Swift, though, and you that popular, people gonna nitpick you. So you gotta have hits. And Taylor Swift got hits. So as much as you want to hate, you can't, because it's like, dang, she got another one. And then there's another one. Dang, it's another hit. So what happens is, I done grew up in an era where I grew up with LeBron James. And LeBron James came out in 2003. LeBron James had hate in his own backyard. I had cousins and basketball players. Like, we grew up. I remember Canton McKinley. He went to St. Vincent, St. Mary's. And this dude in Canton and Cleveland, nobody liked LeBron James, because they told us that he was the coldest. They said, while we was watching Michael Jordan, there's a kid that's better than Jordan. And we was like, come on, bro. Who is a dude that's 2-3 years younger than us in the same market that cold? And you know what? He came out that first game against Sacramento, and I had people saying, oh yeah, he's that nice. Now, the reason I'm giving you these examples is because, does he have to be great overnight? No. But what he does have to have is he has to have the progression that is on an accelerated pace. And the reason you are on that accelerated pace is because of them being at a point where they didn't take you in with the second overall pick. At the second overall pick, he can take his good old time to do whatever he wants to. Then they did take another quarterback over him. So you had to wait him out. You had to wait 6 games for Dillon Gabriel to eventually get hurt before you get the opportunity, right? And so then you see it like, look, they didn't already started it. Nick Wright was like, hey, if he don't come out here against them doggone Raiders and play well, he might not only not start for the Browns no more, he might not start for no other team. And so it's crazy, because then you start to see it. You starting to see like, oh no, you see the difference in between the way they go about with Dillon Gabriel and the way they go with Shedeur Sanders. Because what comes with Dillon Gabriel ain't what come with Shedeur Sanders. When they say
Dillon
Shedeur
can be mediocre and stay in the league for 10 years.
Right.
And it's not because it's because it's like there's nothing extra that comes with him. He's low maintenance. With Shedeur, it's like, like Tim Tebow, the fantastic thing about him is like he went 7-4 in his starting quarterback career and was 12-5 touchdown interception ratio.
Yeah.
And he was done
terrible
by year 2. Nobody was like gonna give this dude a shot to play any kind of football after year 2. And what was surprising about that is, you look at his college career, you would think that somebody could find somewhere to put him on the football field, but it never got to the point to where people thought the benefit would reach the amount of attention that he's going to get. And that's a balance that's a game that Dillon does not have to play, because Dillon is not famous. And ultimately, outside of being connected to this Shedeur Sanders thing, nobody really cares about Dillon. No. And that has negatively affected him to the point to where he was roadkill in this whole Shedeur thing, right? Because while he was out there, he could have done anything. People wanted him out because he's not the man that they wanted to see.
That wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen, yeah.
Where it's going to benefit Dillon is that, look, he's going to get a lot more time to become whoever Dillon Gabriel needs to be, because nobody's going to pay that much attention to it, right? Nobody's going to really care that much, especially if it's no longer associated with Shedeur. Shedeur is like, everything's going to be a top story. Everything's going to be a reason to criticize everybody who's employed with the team, whether it's good or bad. Everything becomes a thing, and that like the wildcat snaps that people were missing at this week, right?
I said, come on, guys, and I'm the biggest Shedeur fan. I said, listen, we on that goal line and we ain't scored no points. I'm handing the ball to Quincy and see we gonna score it by any means necessary.
It's like when it's that level, then becomes this measure that you have to go. It's like, hey, how good do you have to be to justify this, right? It was the same thing with Deshaun Watson, where it's like, man, we taking a lot of shit for having Deshaun Watson on the team. He can't just be average, right? He had to be great.
And Deshaun Watson, by the way, his stuff. That was crazy because first of all, we're not comparing Deshaun Watson to Shedeur, and we're not comparing Tim Tebow to Shedeur. Shedeur can play.
We're comparing the stuff around them, but not the players. No.
Even what we're doing now, if we was talking about anybody else, we wouldn't have had to qualify that. Well, we'd have been like, man, whatever, man. You think what you want to think, but no, it's going to take. It takes and this is why I look at the relationship with Andrew Berry. It is going to take a special organization to embrace that kind of attention, because the Browns, for a lot of people, are not the organization that can handle traditionally any of this. However, I look at Andrew Berry and I look at some of his interactions with Shedeur preseason in the locker room, and I think that him and Jimmy Haslam, I think they said, you know what? We're going to swing for the fences. They everything that they did was swing, like Quinshawn, the whole Juckins thing. How many times would people cave under that pressure if you've already had Deshaun Watson on the roster? Some people say, no, take him off the board. Isaiah Bond. How many people would have caved and said, you know what, we getting this is crazy. We can't have this.
The Browns, to their credit and to their discredit at times,
right?
They don't care if they're gonna do something that's gonna piss people off. They think is gonna make the team better. Here's the one thing I will always say, and I've defended them throughout some of these like sabotage accusations. Is like, hey man, this organization has shamelessly proven, whether you like it or not, they will do anything to get better at football. These guys here, they will be shameless about it sometimes, right? Like, look, the move for Deshaun Watson, it might not feel like it to people who weren't there at the time. It was a shameless move to get better at quarterback, because, and by the way, at the time,
everybody was. I don't think there was that many people. 90%. Yeah. When they got Deshaun Watson, we thought we was going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we thought we finally got that missing piece, but that's who they are as an organization, right? I still think, even if you're for Shedeur, what it's gonna take and what I hope for him is like either he plays himself to a situation where the Browns are like, you know what, this is who we want, we're gonna commit to it, or he plays himself to a place to where somebody else can make that determination and he goes somewhere because for Shedeur to get the time that he needs to go somewhere that really wants him.
They have to believe in him.
Right now, the Browns aren't there. Like, the Browns aren't they like Shedeur. I think they're interested in Shedeur, but if they truly wanted Shedeur, they would have went after him earlier in the draft. He certainly would have went before Dylan Gabriel. So for Shedeur, it's like you could get to the place to where that's the case, right? It's just like human beings, right? You might not always see somebody as something, but then over time, you like, you know what, that's the person, right?
That's why I think they did. I think they came in the beginning. The evaluation was, okay, we like Dylan. Okay, we're in the third round. Yeah. But I'm gonna tell you, things changed when they traded Joe Flacco. Because if you do not, under any circumstances, trade Joe, if you got the stopgap and you got, they moved Pickett, they moved Flacco. And at that point, I started to see, I believe there was a shift in the way that they thought about the situation, because you don't just put two rookies at, like, one ain't never played and one of them is going to be the backup now. I feel like that was the shift where they're like, you know what? Let's see what the dude got. We're going to see.
I noticed a couple of weeks ago, before they even put Shedeur out there, that Kevin was in a press conference and they asked Kevin a question about how Shedeur was prepping. And he went out his way to say how happy he was with him, right? Like, because, there's like the basic Kevin Stefanski, we're doing what we need to, everybody's working. But he was like, he said something and he added an extra superlative to describe Shedeur's work. Like, he was like, no, I'm incredibly happy with the work that he's done. And I know there was like mixed reports coming out during the year. And like, I can understand it as like, hey, look, he's going to have that. You go from being the man to not being the man. Mm-hmm. It's going to take you're going to have a couple of bad weeks. I promise you, you're going to have a couple of bad weeks. I know people who, they finally got like a full-time job, right? And they work at that job and it beat their ass a little bit at the beginning, right? And it's like, oh, you're not you for a little bit, but then you get back to being you eventually. There's been times where the season is taking so many turns. It's like, oh man, it's beat my ass. And I'm not me for a week or two, right? But then I get back to being me.
Last year, we all got destroyed. I'm going to just say it. Last year was a rough year. That 3-win season, we was not all bloggers, all of us. We did not plan for that.
Yeah, it's tough. You know what I mean? But it looks like he's really found his way. They've done the extra work behind the hungry dog stuff, the extra study and stuff. And it seems like they're really happy with the progress that he has made. And yeah, I do think there's an opportunity if he pairs this up with play and he's doing the things behind the scenes to where they can say to themselves, hey man, we had it wrong on him in the pre-draft. We thought that this was one thing, but he's a lot more ready than we thought. The arm talent's a lot better than we thought. He seems to know the system, and they could say to themselves at the end of the season, no, this is the guy knowing what we know now, we would take this guy at X round here, second round, first round, wherever, and decide to roll with that. And if that's the case, then a lot of this stuff that we're dealing with is not going to be a problem anymore because we all going to be on the same page. Right?
Say that again. Say that louder. The only reason that's it. You just hit it. The only reason this is a thing, like the whole, I told people like this, the game football thing. Mm-hmm. I said, listen, guys, right now, you doing that because a lot of groups of people was pushing for him to get the opportunity to play. Well, guess what? If you would have told me Shedeur Sanders in week 11 or 12 is the starting quarterback, would you have not taken that? You are here now. You got the opportunity. And the whole game ball thing is crazy because, you want him to get the game ball. He won. I get that. But if he's a franchise quarterback and he gets to a point where he's the guy and the organization is around him, Shedeur Sanders will never talk about a game football because now Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, they do not talk about game footballs because their game, and I'll leave it here. I did like that he said this, which is encouraging about what I think he understands and where he can go. He said, I'm grateful for the organization and I'm grateful of the opportunity and the responsibility of leading the Cleveland Browns because that is the big thing. It's deeper than just starting one game or two game or beating Dylan Gabriel out. That ain't the prop. That ain't what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody to bring us that trophy. And if you want to be that guy, you're going to be the leader of everybody, not just the leader of your fan base. You're going to be the leader of the organization. And so for him to say that means that he's feeling the buy-in level that the organization is putting behind him. And it has to be a give and take, and it has to be guys, all of us coming together to say, we're going to make the decision based on come together of what you do on the field. Not about what you feel. What is going to keep him on the field is what he do in the game. And that's the true nature of what it is.
All right. This is an interesting question because I think he posted a video about this. Are Shedeur fans misunderstood? Because there's been a lot of friction between some Browns fans and Shedeur fans, and there's been friction between myself and the Shedeur fan base for sure. Like I ain't gonna lie, I've been called a lot of things by them folk, like a lot of things I don't agree with. But do you feel like they are misunderstood or the point is misunderstood? Because like I do feel for some of these folks because they're being lumped in with the ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Like not everybody who's a Shedeur fan is Josina Anderson, is Kendrick Perkins, or some of the more ridiculous stuff that you're seeing where people are just like completely out of pocket and not being helpful. But how do you see it, right? Like, as somebody who you do interact with Shedeur's fans way more than me.
Mm-hmm. I think I did a blog and said that I feel like they're misunderstood because first and foremost, you got to understand where his fan base comes from. So a lot of his fan base comes from individuals that have been watching him since the beginning of when he was on TV. He's been a reality star forever.
Yeah,
it's like saying somebody
he's like a child star, like in a way, right?
Like that's like you grow up. Like my mom said something and it was wild. Now, not saying that he's him, but she said Michael Jackson been famous when I was a little. Michael Jackson was famous when I was a little girl, and then Michael Jackson was famous when I was grown, and then he's like Michael Jackson was still famous, even more famous when you grew up watching him. So when you that famous and you've been on TV for that long, you get
people grow up with you.
That's why when they call him nephew, they really feel like that's literally they family members. So when people say something, they be like, listen, no. I ain't gonna let you talk about my family members because I really feel that way about. I think that gets missed. Another thing that gets missed is I think a lot of it was I think the whole way the competition thing that was the Browns. I'm on record for saying how bad they handled that, because here's the thing. When you saying this, right, and I don't think they understood how big Shedeur was outside of it. So when
I don't think they understood that there were going to be a lot of people who did not like. We know he didn't mean what they meant by competition, which
right?
Is we know because we are in the weeds and we talk to mainly people who are really into football.
Yes,
but I don't think they understood that, like, there are people in my life that don't care about football that hit me up about Shedeur. Right.
Yes.
Every day, right. Like every day. Like, oh, what's going on with this, that, the third. And those people don't know the difference. Like if it's marketed as a competition, they're gonna go, oh, they're gonna split the refs 4 ways. It's gonna be
a four-way competition.
Yeah,
I said no.
Sit there and explain,
Kevin,
like, oh no, that's not what that means at all.
No, Kevin, don't do. Listen. I was like, oh no.
And I think that goes into, like, look, Kevin and AB are really smart guys, and they're used to being in that environment, right? And talking amongst people who have dedicated their lives to football. Because as much as they are like, as much as they get branded as like Ivy League guys, these are guys who played in college, who coached right after college and scouted right after college. These are football lifers. Right. They're as much as a football lifer as John Dorsey, right? It just doesn't get presented that way because obviously John Dorsey presents himself differently, but they're football lifers. So they're thinking of this from a football lifer perspective. We're going to say the coach speak. We're going to do the coach speak. But I think oftentimes they don't think about, like, okay, with Deshaun Watson, there's a lot of people. The Browns quarterback situation has been discussed on The View for like 5 years now, right? Yeah, it's at that point. Because like with Deshaun Watson, I thought that they didn't understand that part of it, where it's like, hey, it's more than just football diehards watching and listening at this point. And yeah, I think you have a point there with the Shedeur thing and the competition, where it's like, yeah, they got to understand that, like, hey, look, there's how you talk when we talk about Dylan Gabriel and all that, everybody ain't listening, right? Like, so we can have that conversation the way that we normally have those conversations. But when it comes to Shedeur, if you want to avoid a media storm, and I think it's also upon the Browns PR to make this more, like, why are we just now finding out that Kevin has been doing 2 hours of film study individually with Shedeur 3 days a week?
That's my problem. And it's not a problem.
And the hungry dog stuff, right? Like we're just now finding out about it, and it's like we should have known from this from the jump.
And look, I'll try to give people grace because sometimes maybe that's not your strong suit. Maybe not you. Maybe your how you emote, how you come off is being genuine, or how you communicate with people ain't the best, right? Sometimes you got to use different messages for different bases and different groups. And so when you get, I wish the Browns would have understood that you got to think about what transpired. You talking about a guy who, people projected going in the first round, second round, that slides to the fifth round. So now people is already, the antenna is up everywhere. They're like, oh my gosh, let's figure out what happened. Then on top of that, he gets pranked. Like the whole prank thing happened.
Yeah,
that goes viral. So now the people that support him,
dude from Ole Miss, right? Like that does it.
It's crazy because now it's like people is on edge. So now the Browns pick him, and then what goes viral after that? The look on their faces when they took him. And then so now that goes, and then
it's like for us, we know that's just how they are.
That's how it works. and so, but now you got a bunch of people that's dialed in, tuned in. Why do you think Joe Budden's talk about it? These are regular podcasts that talk about hip hop or other things, and they dialed in.
Perkins, he don't ever talk about the NFL
ever,
right? But he talking about this, right?
So now you got all these people around watching. But I will say this about. I think one of the things is with Shedeur fans and people is it's almost like being married into a family. So sports is like one big family, it's one community. And if I marry somebody and I'm married and I'm married and I married my wife, and then she got her family, and when I go over to their side of the family, it's not like they gonna know me overnight. Like they gonna know me based on what I do. And basically, it's only 2 or 3 times a year I see them. I see you Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? So in the beginning, no, they ain't gonna let me just be running around here talking too much. No, they might not invite me to everything. And some of the aunts and uncles might look at me like, I don't know about him. He do a lot too much. I don't know about his personality. But guess what? After a point in time, when they see that I'm invested and that their niece, nephew, daughter loves me and he ain't going nowhere, they start to come around a little bit, Quincy. They start to say, hey, this Quincy guy ain't bad. You know what? We might want to see more of him. Bring him around a little more often. And then after about 5-10 years, we all good. The hope is in 5 or 10 years that Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback. The Cleveland Browns have built around him, and they are good. I don't think you will have Shedeur and Browns fans. You'll just have a bunch of passionate Browns fans that want to see them win. But guess what? Whoever the coach is, they still gonna get flack.
Yeah, well, I think if there's anybody that the Browns PR has really given the short end of the stick, it has consistently been Kevin Stefanski. Yeah. Who they have just put in these horrific situations to be. Because, like, look, we could talk about Kevin as a coach and, as a mind and as an innovator, if he's what the team needs at this point. I've made my arguments that, I don't think he should continue on as a head coach.
I've said that too.
But some of this stuff ain't like about that aspect of Kevin, right? Where it's like, a lot of people accusing this man of being unprofessional, straight up, or just like racist. And there is nothing to indicate that Kevin Stefanski would be unprofessional. And if the argument is that Kevin Stefanski does not want to start a black quarterback, his resume would certainly scream differently. I think he started more black quarterbacks than the Browns have had since '99 in his 5 years here with Josh Dobbs, Jacoby Brissett, DTR,
Kellen Mound, he kept putting on
Jameis
the team.
Winston, Deshaun Watson.
So there's been actually
Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, technically there's been more black quarterbacks than there have been other quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, there's like Bailey Zapp, Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, Joe Flacco.
Yep, it's 4.
Well, no. There was Kyle Trask that one game.
Yeah, I forgot about Trask. And then there was the dude from Florida. Who's the dude from Florida?
That's Kyle Trask. Was that Kyle Trask or was that that was Kyle Trask?
What is another one?
Was another dude from Florida?
He played in the Cincinnati game.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if that's Kyle Trask or if that's oh no, it's not Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask is a second round pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, we're thinking of the same person.
Yeah, we are.
Jeff Driscoll.
Jeff Driscoll, that's him.
Jeff Driscoll. So, and I think the point is like, Kevin has not seemed like that's been an issue for him.
No,
starting a black quarterback.
I think what it is, too, you throw it in there. I do believe that Dylan Gabriel's that was his guy. Like, and there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah, I think legitimately, look, there's something to be said about like, hey, what do you prefer from a quarterback? How do you prefer your quarterback to present, right? That's going to be a question of like, okay, I think Kevin likes the traditional guys, right?
Yes.
Like that's what he likes. And Dylan Gabriel is Mr. Traditional.
That's
now,
his guy. Yeah.
That was the guy he liked. That was the guy who they liked in the pre-draft. And, that's who they went with first in the draft. Now, to be fair to them, it ain't like they took Dylan Gabriel in like the first or second round, right? Like,
it's third.
With their second, third round pick. Like, it's a little earlier than people thought he would go, but it seems like he was going to go in the top of the fourth round. So, yeah, that's where they had him. I think that put him as like the second quarterback on the board for them, but it's a day 3 grade. It's a day 2, day 3 grade. So it's like, it's a weak quarterback class. So I guess that's how you feel.
We would both agree. I didn't see him, no top 100 player. But here's the thing.
No, I thought he had a 4th round grade.
Yeah, I didn't see him as top 100. And the thing I think with Kevin Stefanski more than anybody, if I could give him some advice, come on, Kevin, let me tell you this, man. Come on, come to the office, bro. Look, all you had to do is be like, look, man, I got Dylan, I got Shedeur. I like both their skill sets, man. The Cleveland Browns are excited about both of these dudes, and we are ready to get both of them and to develop them. First of all, I wouldn't say nothing about no competition. We talk about all develop. That's it. All we're doing. And then the second thing too is get in front of some of this stuff. You can joke and be funny. He say, I don't tend to listen to you guys out there. But listen, let me tell you this. I've been super impressed with what we've been doing with Shedeur behind the scenes. We've been working. He's been working his tail off, getting better every week. And, some of the things we doing. Hey, let me tell you about my Hungry Dogs program. Here, when you're playing, you can segue that from, hey, Kevin, you guys got a lot of young players that you're playing this year. Let me segue to the Hungry Dogs. Hey, listen, we got a lot of young guys, and to get guys ready because they ain't getting a lot of reps, we've been doing some overtime stuff, and that's our program that we've been stamping. Shout out to Andrew, our team. That type of stuff.
Like, I wonder why it is that, like, their PR people aren't telling them to mention that, right? Like, that to me was like, what? If I'm Kevin, I'm incredibly frustrated with the PR staff here, because it feels like they're encouraged to keep this stuff under wraps, right? Like, it feels like they are encouraged to mum's the word here. And like, yeah, Kevin's a football coach. He's supposed to be in the weeds. He's not supposed to be thinking about what a casual fan is thinking. That is the job of whoever is in PR for the Cleveland Browns, to communicate that to Kevin, to Andrew, to make sure that they're effectively communicating there. And I think if there's been a big fumble here, there's been a huge fumble here with like how the environment is, because some of this stuff you weren't going to avoid, right? Mm-hmm. Shedeur on your team, they're going to want him to play, and they're going to be mad that he's not playing, even if it's the right thing for him not to play. Like, that's just going to happen, right? But it didn't have to get to this point to where you got Kendrick Perkins out here calling him cupcake and all this shit, right? Like, it didn't have to get to this point. And I think that is exclusively the fault of the Browns PR, because they just completely had no grasp on how the message around this, on how to present this, what information to give to the public, because there's a lot here that if it was presented earlier would have slowed down or even have killed this idea that Kevin would be so petty to try to hurt Shedeur's career to prove a point in the draft, And
Q, like, and a lot of this stuff didn't, like, look, I don't got no problem with none of the beat reporters But when you're using certain buzz phrases, and you like, if you understood this information, my thing was, look, if you got two quarterbacks, right? If you're presenting one of the quarterbacks as if, he's not ready, what I'm saying, I get, you can say, okay, well, he's not ready. They like this, they like that. But some of the stuff is, the way you phrase it is going to have an emotional factor. Like there, in the beginning of it, it was sort of average. When you look at Shedeur, he had an adversarial relationship with a lot of the media members, where it was to a point where, they talk about Dion and, what was this. And then when you have that type of relationship, and then Shedeur goes to like high schools to throw the football, it builds this thing in people's mind, like, dang, they don't even want the dude to throw in the facility. He got to throw at the high school.
Yeah, he's just trying to get extra work in.
He just putting extra work in.
Yeah.
See, you see how it grow? Now it grows into this thing where
people are like, oh, Quincy is on the field because they don't want to give it. And it's like,
you should have just said, Shedeur has been in here working hard. Yeah. He's been putting extra work in. He's over there doing his things. I commend him. And guess what? We wouldn't even have been here at that point. But we are here now. We are here now. And the cool thing about it is, whether you know it or I know it, more than anything, as much as we like to talk about this other stuff, at the heart of it, we like talking about football. And this is the fun part. That's the part of the growth. I want to see how good you are, because now that's what I really care about. We can talk about all the other narrative stuff and your dad and your peoples and all that other good stuff. But the long story short is, if you ask who is the starting quarterback of the Browns today, the answer is Shedeur Sanders. Let's see how long he can keep that job.